What's up? It's your boy Domuto. We are back with another video today, bro. Watching the Mighty Emperor. Silver confronts Methiles. What if Sonic Frontiers had a tournament part 12? And we watch part 13 as well. You know, we're still close to getting the story done, so we're about to just knock it out. But shout out, yeah, I said the Mighty Emperor, right? So yeah, Silver confronts Methiles, man. We about to see. We about to get some good fights in this one, and so we can get into it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and
looms over the arena, the last man standing, as his opponent Whisper has faded away.
Yeah, well, I forgot about this. Yeah.
Her friends at the side look on with sorrowful eyes, but they do little more to react, for they know at this point it's inevitable. Only one can win after all. Chaos looks towards the hillside he paid attention to before his match to see if those small visitors were still there, but they appear to have vanished. So he simply returns to his spot at the side of the arena. Zavok and the rest of the Zeti come together to discuss their plans. It's not long now before my plans will be realized. Look at the remaining rabble. None exist that can pose a challenge to me. I've either beaten them in the past, or they're nothing worth considering now. Yes, before too long, the world will fear the Zeti. Echoing from the sky, the end announces
I'm not sure
the
about
next match will be between Methilis and Silver. At the mention of this, an echoing laughter can be heard originating from the arena as a spiral of shadow warps around and bursts, forming into the strange figure of Methilis the Dark. Ah! At last, my turn to return to the stage. It's been a rather long time, but many interesting fights have taken place since then. Many of you have fallen, and yet some that remain. And he turns to face Infinite, still contained within his shell. Thankfully, it's soundproof. Have lost their way. Silver grips his fist. So this is my opponent. Figures. Shadow gives him some advice. Remember what he did to Knuckles. This individual can change his form. Yeah, I've got a couple ideas, but I guess I won't find out until I start this thing. Right. Methilis turns to face the two hedgehogs. Ah, only two hedgehogs remain. Not a surprise. Sonic was always the easiest to kill off. Silver swipes his hand into the air. You sure like talking a lot, don't you? Eager, are we? Well then, don't let me stand in the way of saving your friends. The fates seem to conspire against you. I know your abilities all too well. It's not as if I haven't seen you in action either. What a limited perspective. We were once partners. I fostered your potential, and in return, you carried out my will. Together we saw fit to alter reality to our liking. But then, you betrayed me. Silver scoffs. Do you seriously think I'll believe a lie like that? Lies?
Okay, I think we're good.
You claim me to be a liar. I would have thought of all people, you would have been open-minded about the passage of time. Methilis begins to rise as a dark aura envelops him. Time is not a line one travels back and forth between, but a nexus, an overwhelming mass of possibilities.
Oh shit.
And he points a finger towards him. You are a meddler, one more severe than most, and you've altered the course of history. You've subverted what should have been, and created this false reality. You are the false one here, and your sins shall not go unpunished. Methilis charges forward towards Silver through the air. Reacting quickly, Silver raises his hand and channels his psychokinesis to grasp hold of his opponent. However, instead of stopping him fully, it just gives him a little shunt on his way towards Silver. What a juvenile attempt. Allow me to show you how it's done. Mephiles shrugs off the psychokinesis and flings his wrists, causing the shadows around Silver to rise up like tendrils, grasping around his wrists and trying to pull him into the floor. What is this? It is your fate. Mephiles arrives in front of Silver and grabs him by the neck whilst he's being pulled in by the shadows. You will not escape me again. Silver grits his teeth and shouts out as he explodes with psychic energy, dispersing the tendrils around him and pushing Mephiles off of his neck. Okay, let's do this. Silver takes to the sky as his body glows in psychic energy. Mephiles is quick to follow, throwing a ball of dark energy towards him. Silver manages to roll out of the way, but Mephiles then disperses into a cloud of shadows and writhes around in front of Silver, re-emerging for a moment just to strike him in the face, and then transforming once more into the cloud, following Silver as he recovers in the air. He's watching Mephiles' movements. They're fast and hard to follow, so Silver decides to move erratically, darting back and forth with his psychokinetic dash, making it harder for Mephiles to land a solid strike against him, though he does inevitably find his mark, kicking Silver once more and knocking him close to the ground. He manages to recover using his powers just before colliding and flies right back up. Mephiles retaliates by charging down towards Silver, summoning another orb of darkness within his palm. Silver takes note of this and increases his speed, boosting right into Mephiles' face, and he lurches out his own hand towards Mephiles', trying to contain the growing orb of shadow within a net of psychokinetic energy. The two push against one another like polarizing magnets, not being able to quite make contact, but straining against the force of their own powers. The orb in Mephiles' palm shrinks beneath Silver's power, and yet it's forced to try and expand, causing a collapse, a singularity similar to an exploding sun, as it completely vanishes from sight and then in an instant explodes into a glorious ball of dark and psychic energy. Silver is knocked tumbling onto the floor, and Mephiles is sent spiraling into the air. He reforms as the shadows cling back to his figure, and Silver lifts his face up from the stone. The mouthless face of Mephiles glares down at Silver, and he raises a hand above his head. Drown in darkness! A larger sphere of shadow arrives on top of Mephiles, and he flings it down towards Silver, who doesn't have enough time to fly out the way, and instead instinctively raises his arms to guard himself. However, this one doesn't explode on contact, and instead collects around Silver like a dome of whirling cloud, making him unseeable from the outside. Within it, Silver's being harassed, as if he was in a cloud of knives trying to cut away at him with every passing.
I'm going with Team Silver.
He coats his body in psychic energy to protect himself, but it's still a struggle as he tries to find his way out of this cloud. The eyes of Mephiles appear to materialize from the inside, taunting Silver. As all things have an origin, so too do they have an end. You have subverted yours for too long. It shall be denied no longer. For someone who's overly concerned with the passage of time, you sure seem fixated on what's already occurred. Silver focuses in his psychic energy into his palm and swings it across, causing a psychic knife to slice through the cloud, cutting it in two and allowing him to see the outside world once more. But Mephiles simply regathers this energy into himself and flows as a ball of shadow down into Silver's own, just like he did before.
Damn.
Almost instantly, Silver opens up his palm and slams it into the floor on top of his own shadow. Oh no, you don't! Focusing in his power, channeling it through his hand into the ground. Mephiles struggles under Silver's power as he's ripped out from the ground without consuming Silver's shadow, being held up in front of the psychic hedgehog, trapped within his psychokinesis, unable to move. Silver grunts as Mephiles' powers try to free him from his grasp, and knowing he can't hold it for long, he expends his power in a sudden burst, flinging Mephiles across the floor of the arena, ripping some of the slabs out with him. Taking note of that, Silver then grabs the rubble and flings it onto Mephiles, adding more and more until he's buried beneath a merged ball of rock and dirt. Bursting out from the cracks like pressurized gas, Mephiles' shadows spew forth from this boulder and emerge in front of Silver once more. As he clasps his hand, it explodes behind him. How futile. Try as you might, you will never be able to keep me down. Mephiles throws his arm forward to shoot another orb of darkness towards Silver. He manages to sidestep it. Mephiles throws another soon after. Silver, during the dodging of his first attack, quickly lurches around his back and raises his hand in front of him, forming a pentagon-like barrier of psychic energy, nullifying the blast as it collides with his power. Mephiles then fires 3 homing lasers in rapid succession that arc up and then dive down towards Silver. He hops out of the way of the first one, lifts his hands up to try and slow down the other 2 with his psychic powers, but gets grazed by the final blast. Keeping the pressure up, Mephiles throws forth purple flames to envelop Silver, but he uses his psychic energy to wrap them around himself, his arms now glowing with that purple flame, which he then spits back towards Mephiles. Mephiles slowly approaches Silver, absorbing the flames with no harm to himself, as he flicks his wrist once more to fire another couple lasers towards him. Silver, in turn, begins approaching Mephiles, deflecting his shots using his psychic energy as he closes the gap between him. Mephiles, still moving towards Silver, fires a volley of shadow orbs. Silver this time lifts a couple slabs off the arena's surface and starts rotating them around himself, going low, up and then high in a spiral, representing a sort of dragon, of which blocks the attacks of Mephiles from hitting Silver himself, absorbing most of the damage. Meanwhile, he snakes the remaining panels below his arm and towards Mephiles, catching him by surprise as he's hit again and again with shattering stone slabs, stunning him for a moment. Once the attack is over, he looks forward to retaliate, but sees nothing there. Looking up into the sky, he's a fraction too late. He sees a psionic knife from Silver headed straight for him. He sidesteps, but he loses his right arm in the process, evaporating into darkness. Of no major concern for Mephiles, but Silver follows this up by throwing a psionic bomb, a small orb that expands and explodes on contact. Mephiles is caught face first with this attack, splintering his body. Silver was charging forward the whole time and collides with the ground, striking it with his fist. However, he didn't hit Mephiles, who had dispersed into darkness and reformed behind the Silver Hedgehog. Mephiles summons yet another shadow orb in his palm as he reaches low and bowls it into Silver, who manages to turn around just in time to form a barrier, protecting himself against the orb as it pushes him back across the arena. Before it can detonate, Silver channels this energy into his hand and karate chops it, deflecting it to the side where it detonates onto the invisible barrier. Mephiles charges face first into Silver, clashing with his shield, causing it to ripple. Also to talk to him rather than expecting to break the barrier with his face. How rude of me to take all your attention for myself. He flicks his fingers and summons 3 strange shadowy demon figures. Give him a warm welcome. The small creatures giggle amongst themselves and split up, flying above Silver and then diving down like birds after worms. Silver looks up at them hesitantly and then returns his gaze back to Mephiles, who's vanished. What the? One of them strikes Silver across the back, breaking his focus and disrupting his barrier. Another one then hits him in the face, and yet another shoots a small purple laser towards him. This he avoids and then tries to grab them with his psionic powers, but much like Mephiles, they are unable to be held. Capitalizing on his mistake, they attack him again, hounding Silver, too small to land concisive hits against, and too fast to properly track. So he takes to the sky and starts boosting around with his own psychic powers. At least here, he's able to keep up with them somewhat. They focus in on Silver like a dogfight between fighter planes. He barrel rolls and U-turns trying to shake them off his tail, but they're very persistent. One of them comes in from his side and he manages to fling a ball of psionic energy towards it, knocking it back. But then another one grabs his foot, whilst a third shoots at him. He manages to maneuver his leg to cause the shots to hit one of the other demons, breaking it completely. But then the demon Silver had hit before rises up and punches him in the chin, almost knocking him out of the sky completely. He regains his composure just in time to catch the other one charging towards him. He grabs it with his hands and prepares to throw it the old-fashioned way as he dives down towards the ground but diverts his direction at the last moment, throwing the Shadow Demon into the ground with the maximum momentum possible, shattering it as well. The third and final creature stays still for a moment and then starts vibrating. Silver raises his arms to guard. Instead of an attack, it splits itself, and now three demons once again float before Silver. They all dive at the same time, but at different angles. Silver, running out of options, slams his hand into the ground, generating a field of psionic energy, expanding out around him and catching them. They're unable to move at full speed through this psionic static that Silver strains to maintain as he thinks to himself, "I got to figure out a way around this. Everyone's depending on me. I can't lose. Not now." A cold wind grazes Silver's back. "Behind you." Huh? Silver turns around to see Mephiles once again, striking Silver in the ribs, causing him to buckle, dropping his psionic field. In an instant, the three demons charge back towards Silver and each latch onto him, hugging him, refusing to let go. Silver scrambles trying to rip them off his body, but to no avail. As Mephiles laughs, they detonate one after the other, sending Silver flying into the sky and then crashing onto the ground. As he writhes on the ground, trying to find the strength to return to his feet, Mephiles slowly approaches him. "Do not be so disappointed. You were condemned from the very beginning. You will not prevail. I cannot be beaten." As if to emphasize his point, Mephiles regenerates his old arm as the shadows return to their original shape. Silver looks up with a sarcastic grin on his face. "Is that so?" Using his remaining strength, he gets to his feet and dashes back as far away from Mephiles as he can.
Come on, Silver, I need you to win this one, bro.
And
I got money on you, Silver.
He simply waits. Mephiles entertains this for a few moments, and then
Mephiles got a lot of tricks,
his
though.
actions. What is the meaning?
We got bringing out armies and shit.
Oh, you know, I'm just taking in the view, enjoying the scenery, that sort of thing. A poorly conceived veil for your fear, then. Hardly. Don't tell me you've forgotten the rules. If both participants don't fight in earnest, then they both get disqualified. What? Ha! So if it's true that I can't beat you, then I won't even try. Mephiles is genuinely frustrated by this stipulation. It's true. In this arena, he must abide by others' rules. What folly! He immediately sinks into darkness and rises up behind Silver, throwing his arm back and shooting forth a solid beam of white energy. It doesn't have to travel far to reach Silver, but Silver's instincts reacted just in time for him to raise up his barrier, protecting him from its might. However, Silver was completely caught off guard by this sudden burst of power, and whilst he is holding his own, his face tells a story of strain. Unable to take a breath, whilst his body aches from previous fighting and the sheer overwhelming force of this strange attack. Mephiles stands unmoving, pointing his fingers, allowing the beam to do its work. Silver's shield begins to splinter. Die!
Come on,
Silver can't hold out anymore. The shield gives way, and he's skewered by this beam of light. He takes a gasp, and Mephiles cuts it off, watching Silver fall to his knees as he places a hand on his chest. With his free hand, he tries to grab Mephiles with his psionic powers to no avail, and the last thing he sees before blacking out is the feet of Mephiles standing over him. Mephiles watches as Silver fades away from the arena. I was far too lenient. From now on, I will not give them the chance. He looks towards Shadow exclusively and gives a sarcastic bow. Until we next meet, Shadow. Like grains of sand in the wind, his form slowly drifts away into particles of darkness across the wind. The arena stands empty, hollow, and dark. Darkness is as the remaining participants wait their turn by the edge of the arena. There is a macabre atmosphere in the air, a foreboding feeling, for each and every remaining contender fully understands it won't be long before their next match will be called. And as more and more people dwindle, the likelihood that their opponent might be too much for them increases. Though not everyone has the mental maturity to completely consider these factors, as a boisterous stretch and obnoxious attention-seeking from a certain green Tenric ignites anew.
Ah, now that was some fight! It's a shame that creepy guy keeps disappearing somewhere. Seems like the only one interesting left around. I just can't wait until it's my turn again.
On a similar wavelength, the Zeti Zaz also joins in.
Yeah, I'm ready to cause some mayhem. When's my turn already?
His leader, Zavok, places a hand to his forehead.
Get a grip, Zaz. One way or another, you'll be fighting again. Show a little patience in this matter. And pray that you will not be fighting against me.
Zaz gives an uncharacteristically shy gulp as he hears that threat from Zavok. Though he doesn't need to worry, because the end proceeds to announce the next fight will be between Zaz and Wave. The sides of Zaz's lips perk up in a devilish grin.
Oh yeah, looks like it's my turn. I can't believe I'm fighting that though. Tell me, do you squawk or scream?
Wave's face is frozen in fear as she wonders to herself, how did it even come to this? Is she seriously going against a maniac that defeated Jet? What's she going to be able to do that he couldn't? This creature is crazy and strong and can fly with his moon mech. At the same time, it's not as if she's got much of a choice.
Ah, looks like someone's feeling scared.
Zavok puts a hand on Zaz.
Calm yourself. Get into the arena. You'll have your fun once the fight begins. Yes, Zavok. Right away.
And the underling eagerly carries his moon mech onto the arena and awaits. Zavok strolls towards Wave.
You must get into the arena.
Well, maybe I'll just forfeit. Hearing this, Zavok leans down to become eye level with Wave.
Don't even think about it. Either you get into that arena, or I'll break you here.
Pressured and fearful, Wave hops onto the arena herself.
You took your time, but now I'm gonna enjoy mine. Prepare for a beatdown.
Oh, brother. The fight commences as both challengers get onto their vehicles, the moon mech opening its eyes and chomping away whilst Wave raises off the ground on her extreme gear. They charge headfirst towards one another, excitement in Zaz's eyes.
Here we go.
But just as they're about to collide, Wave dives upwards and creates a jet stream tornado behind her, spinning Zaz around, forcing him to grab onto the mech with his hands to stop himself falling off of it.
Not more tricks.
Sorry, unlike Jet, I'm not going to be taking part in any challenges of pride. Wave remarks as she banks around in the sky, positioning herself away and above Zaz, keeping him in view. Based on what she saw him do in the previous round, she's extremely cautious of getting anywhere near him. Zaz, obviously, is only thinking about causing as much destruction as he can, and so he immediately charges back towards Wave. No strategy, no tactic, just attack. Wave very much expected this from the Zeti, so instead of meeting him head on, she decides to continue flying as far around him as she can, avoiding getting trapped in a corner of the arena. And as she does, she laces many small tornadoes behind her, littering the airspace with swirling hazards that Zaz mostly is not successful in avoiding.
Oh, come on!
All of these hurdles grant Wave more time to assess her situation. She's been able to see the moon mech up close now that she's against it in the arena, but she also has the data from its match against Jet. And she's got a solid idea on how the machine might function, based on some of her educated guesses. The issue is externally there doesn't seem to be any access points. It's clearly operated by some kind of link between the Zeti itself. It would make it hard for her to deconstruct it on the fly. As such, she grabs a small device from the underside of her necklace and attaches it to the side of her spanner. Looks like I'll be doing this the old-fashioned way. Az's face is almost changing from purple to red with frustration as he passes through the last of the tornadoes left behind.
I'm gonna make you regret.
I'll pierce your fuse.
Huh?
Zaz looks up to see Wave diving down at him.
Finally.
Getting pumped, Zaz prepares to meet Wave head on. Seems like she's finally got some sense. However, she's coming down holding a giant spanner.
So you're bringing a weapon into this now, huh?
But Wave is not intending to fight him in hand-to-hand combat and throws the spanner. Catch! Zaz can't help but smirk.
That's nothing.
And the moon mech opens wide, chomping down on the spanner. Metal against metal as a strange crunching sound echoes from inside. But Wave smiles. I knew you'd fall for that.
Fall for what?
And the moon mech explodes. One of the eyes spring out the socket. It loses altitude, smoke's puming out from the inside, and it drops down onto the arena, cracking open and sending Zaz face first onto the floor. Over on the side of the arena, Xena can't help but disapprove of the fight. What a joke. Zaz is once again toying with his food. Never gets a job done right. Savok doesn't join in, but he does seem displeased as he grumbles. Back on stage, Zaz slams his fist into the ground.
You're really getting on my nerves.
And he looks up to see Wave on her hoverboard, except she's not standing on it. She's sat on it, legs crossed over, leaning back, looking into the sky.
What are you playing at?
Huh? Oh, yes. You. I'm not really gonna fight you anymore. Sorry.
What? What do you mean you're not gonna fight? We're here to fight. This is all about fighting.
Yeah, well, I really like that rule stipulation. If I don't fight, we just both get captured. It seems like that's gonna happen one way or the other. I'd rather do it in one piece.
What? You...
Zaz loses it.
That's it. I've had enough. Get down here.
And points his fingers towards his forehead. Wave's hoverboard begins to shake as she grips the sides. What? And it nosedives straight down into the stone slabs of the arena's surface, breaking as Wave falls face first onto the floor. Zaz strolls towards her, looming over her figure as she clutches her head, unaware of how close he's gotten.
I'm gonna mess you up.
Before
Do
she
it
can
then,
do
nigga.
anything, Zaz kicks Wave in the head, toppling her over and breaking her glasses. He jumps on top of her and starts clawing at her with his deadly hands. She calls out in pain, but he doesn't allow her a moment to breathe as she picks her up and drops her on his knee. Then he grabs her by the feet and spins her around, allowing her head to drag across the floor as he lets go, throwing her into the barrier that shocks her. As she drops back onto the ground, he once again charges forward and jabs her with the side of his horn. A pained gasp leaves Wave's beak, and then she stops responding to anything he does. Noticing that Wave has gone quiet, Zaz stops.
Oh, what? Broken already?
She doesn't respond. Wave lies beaten, bruised, her clothing has been torn, and she is very much unconscious. Cream and Cheese have covered their eyes and are trembling from the sounds. Everyone else just watches on. Zaz turns towards his fellow Zeti, holding out his hands apologetically towards Wave.
Sorry about the mess.
Wave's body fades away, and the match is
Damn.
over. Zaz picks up his mech and leaps towards his fellow Zeti. In one go, he lands beside them.
Well done, Zaz. That demonstration should remind everybody just who they're dealing with.
Shut the fuck up.
Thanks, boss. I can't believe she busted my ride, though. What am I gonna do about it? How am I gonna fix it here?
Well, maybe if you just finished her off straight away, this wouldn't have been a problem for you.
Oh, shut up. You're such a killjoy. A wand, nah.
Elsewhere on her own, Surge is even more pumped for her next fight.
Yeah, that was some action. Finally, this is more my style. Looks like we've got tough customers left, but none of them are going to be as tough as me.
The end announces the next match. It will be between Xena and Cream. Hearing this,
Aw,
Cream takes a
shit.
sharp breath and looks across
on,
the
Cream.
stage to see Xena. She gives Cream a sly smile. They have history before, and it wasn't pleasant the last time. Over towards the Zeti, Xena expresses her excitement.
This whole tournament's been nothing but a waste of my time, but getting to squash that stupid little brat might make this worthwhile.
Looking to even the score, are we?
Nothing to even out. I'm just gonna make sure she regrets ever facing me.
So you're saying you're gonna mess her?
Yes, Zaz, I'm going to ruin her.
And she jumps onto the arena, strutting towards Cream.
Get up here, brat. I've seen enough of your tears already. How about we see some of that blood?
Cream is trying to put a brave face on, but this whole tournament has been psychologically traumatic for the young
Come
rabbit.
on, Cream.
She's
It's
seen
alright.
most of her friends get ferried away to some sort of a prison, normally in a brutal fashion. She just witnessed what Zaz did to Wave, and the last time she battled Xena, it wasn't exactly a pleasant experience. But despite the genuine fear both Cream and Cheese face, they have a strong will, a powerful soul, and they resolve to do their best anyway, as they, sniffling, head towards the arena. Shadow stands a bit to the side of Cream, and as he watches the young rabbit head towards the Zeti, he can't get the image of what Zaz just did out of his head. Cream. She turns around as Shadow calls his name. Her eyes have welled with tears. You've done well. Huh? He immediately teleports in front of Cream and sucker punches her in the gut, expelling all the air from her lungs as she begins to pass out. He looks down as she falls atop his fist. Leave them to me. And then Shadow throws Cream onto the arena before she fully passes out. Cheese becomes furious and charges towards Shadow. He grabs the Chow in his grasp and looks to him. Think, Cheese. Would you rather she faced me? And then he turns Cheese around to look at the Zeti. Or her. Cheese's arms droop down, and he slowly flies towards Cream, hugging her head. Before Xena gets to do anything, Cream's already beginning to fade away. She looks to Shadow, annoyed. Whatever! And flicks her hair around as she struts back towards the Zeti. Well, well, well.
W Shadow,
Seems
W
even
Shadow.
this late into the game, we can still have some unexpected twists and turns.
Oh, we got here. Okay, Surge versus Infinite. Okay. Shadow versus Zavok. Ooh, that's gonna be a fight. Chaos versus Mephiles. Oh. Jazz versus nobody can write that fight. But yeah, okay. We got at least 3 decent fights, and then nobody give a fuck about Jazz and Xena. Yeah, shout out to the Mighty Emperor for this video. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Check out the last one right here. Check out some other videos you might like right here. And I'll catch y'all next time, man. Peace.